Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jatin Luthra from GACS Association. I welcome you all to this webinar panel discussion. And before we start the session, there are a few guidelines which I wanted to bring it to everyone. We have kept everyone on mute, and we request you to also keep your video in off mode to avoid any kind of latency while the session is going on. All questions and inputs will be shared through chat only, and we have our moderator, who is Mr. Praveen Upadhyay, will bring up those questions to the speakers. Appreciate everyone's cooperation here, and I'll pass it on to Mr. Praveen Upadhyay. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I think let me first.
May I also request Mr. Premnath to, if he can also switch on his video there, if it's comfortable. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to all of you for this today's webinar. I'm sure you are aware of the COVID-19 situation and all preventive measures you guys have been taking. There are a lot of changes we have seen nowadays, and I'm sure you also must have experience in your day-to-day life. So lockdown has been continued for some of the areas, locations as declared by the government. So we have, there are a lot of webinars happening through GACS. So today the GACS webinar we try to get on EHS, environment, health and safety. So in this COVID-19 situation, I have understood few concepts, very important concepts which I have understood. I just want to share with you. The one is like the world is changing. World is changing. People say it is pre-corona and post-corona. Social distancing norm has been there. The way you look the things has changed. Social interactions, work styles, internet usage, health consciousness, less pollution, business models, family time, so many things are there. The second thing is adaptation is the key. If you're rigid to your thinking, then it will be a problem for you, because if you're unable to adapt the quick changes which we are supposed to adopt in current situation, then you will be on losing side. The another aspect is, now we do not select not survival for the fittest, but the survival for the quickest. The faster you adapt yourself, it is better for you, with a lot of changes happening in the world. And another one is like forced entrepreneurship. I'm not sure how many companies will be losing their businesses. A lot of people are losing their jobs. We could see around. So I think there is a time that people should relook, and they can think if they can have the entrepreneurship, that is good. And the last but not least, the most important is ego slap by nature. We need to think more consciously our life, which is in tune with the nature. The way we are consuming the things, it is not good. We do a lot of unwanted things nowadays. You can see the clean rivers, pollution-free environment. It's a lot of things. So on that perspective, we are going to have today's webinar. I have two guest speakers with me. One, Mr. Sharif from CTS, and one Mr. Premnath. Sharif is the EHS lead Center of Excellence from CTS, and Mr. Premnath is CEO of Phoenix Safety and Product Access Management. I request Mr. Sharif to introduce yourself. Sharif, over to you. Sharif, I think you're on mute. Sharif, you're on mute, I guess.
Yeah, hi. I was on mute, which I was not able to unmute.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah. Hi, Jatin. Thanks for that. First of all, very good evening to all of you, and welcome to this GAG session for this Hyderabad and Telangana and the Andhra Pradesh chapter. Thanks, Praveen sir, for having this, and it's a privilege and honor to be in front of you and share our knowledge, whatever we know, and then we also learn from you equally. And of course, this industry, we all are working together for quite some time. My name is Sharif. And, I work in Cognizant, and I represent EHS function. Thank you.
Mr. Prem, I request you to introduce yourself, please, to the audience.
Right. Good afternoon, all. So, so what I do, I've been working for about 38 years now, and this is the 39th year running. And my company focuses primarily on making an unpopular function like safety popular with fun, engagement, motivation. And that's what we do. Phoenix Safety Crisis Management, it's all about the culture, moving from compliance to culture, paper to people, both in safety, crisis management, and business continuity. And a very important thing about soft skills for hard results. Many of us in the supporting functions need soft skills to negotiate and navigate through tough times, and that is what we also focus on. So it's all about culture, motivation, fun, and engagement to make this a popular function. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you, Prem, for your nice and short introduction. So what we will discuss today, we have taken the 4-pillar approach. The first is the challenges. The second is workplace preparations. The third is people aspect. And the fourth is way forward. So I would request Mr. Prem to take over from here and then share the presentation to the audience.
Right. Thank you. So what I have to say about this is that, yes, it is not the strongest. I mean, what is written here, it is not the strongest who can win the battle. So it is not about what I can say that it is not. This quote is ascribed to Charles Darwin. It is not Charles Darwin has not said this. There are many quotes which people clearly put it as Einstein said. So it is not. It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. This is a time for change. Your home has become your office. Your hygiene and factors have increased. We have to adapt now, or you become the prey or become the victim. The virus does not distinguish between a chairman or a watchman. It's all the same. It does not look at, it's colorblind. It crosses borders. It doesn't look at visiting cards. Everybody is equally or a victim for one. The challenges for EHS. So can I see it on the full screen mode, please? Jatin?
Yeah, it is on full screen only.
Okay. What are the, yes, I can see it now. Well, we must be conscious of the fact that unlike asking for people to wear helmets, seat belts, the compliance part of it, or the facilities ensuring that no helmet, no entry. From now on, it's going to be no mask. So no mask, no entry. So that's what is going to be. So if it's no, I'm going to ensure that there's a lot of compliance, but the contagious nature of the virus, one loose end is enough to increase the infection and cause a community spread. Down to the detail of even a pen which is there in the wrist, at the even a pen at the main gate which is touched by somebody who's infected. This pen is enough to infect number of people of the visitors who are signing on to the register. We have to get into the micro details of the management of this pandemic and the way it can spread through. Congratulations, everybody is a WhatsApp University professor in COVID. We all have graduated. I think we all need to give a big round of applause for ourselves because we all have graduated as professors. The chances of a double crisis, and that's being put in red. Are we prepared? The double crisis means, you see it in Delhi when this COVID happened, you saw a minor earthquake over there. There are places where there could be, and God forbid, suppose this COVID was during the season when India has got monsoons. So what would be the case in case of a double crisis? It is COVID plus floods. During COVID, they were asking people to stay at home, but during floods, we wanted to move out because their homes are flooded. The people are going to relief camps. As crisis management, each one of us is a crisis management professional. We need to think through. US is battling with hurricanes during COVID. So lots of things. So we have to prepare for a double crisis. The biggest challenge here is changing behaviors from compliance to culture for employees and staff. Yes, I am aware, like that brings us to the last point. I'm aware, but I will not comply. I know I have to wear a helmet. And one of the most difficult things which we can tell anybody, the most difficult challenge of a safety or a facility or EHS professional is to teach or influence the behaviors of an educated person who acts irrationally. I know it, but I will not comply kind of thing. Not by job attitude. We thought, okay, Corona, whose job it is? Corona, handling Corona. Oh, it's a facility manager job. It is a EHS job. No, it is a security, it is a VCM job. I mean, we need to bring together as a team against one enemy, one team, one strategy, overcoming the departmental barriers and attitudes. We have to upskill ourselves in the pandemic and all the health aspects. Every day, there is some new development which comes. Previously, people used to spray disinfectants, sodium hypochlorite, and people with disinfection tunnels, which you find it all over the social media. Now, there are very clear instructions not to put sodium hypochlorite on people. And that's what it is. And with all the bronchospasm and a lot of other, there is an advisory on that. So every day, all of us have to be on a Google alert to check as what's changing now. Like yesterday, the government has also given some instructions in the MHA on, let's say, this Arogya Setu is compulsory. So we need to be constantly like sitting on an air traffic controller. We are a knowledge air traffic controller. Upskilling, increasing compliance burden. Previously, okay, it is normal work from home or a permit to work kind of thing. Now the compliance burden is much more because of the COVID. Is some of the companies have got good practices seeing how many are wearing PP and are the PPs being worn correctly. Many of the people, they have a PP, but many of the even ministers and chief ministers, they're wearing it like this. So are you going to tell that minister or a CEO or a director of a company, sir, you please put the mask like this? So compliance burden and influencing people. But the budgets I mentioned, pandemic, budgets are getting smaller and smaller. The problem is getting bigger and bigger. It's going in the opposite directions. So when we have a budget freeze, one of the first victims of a budget freeze is the facility management and of course safety and security. So there is a requirement of compliance. We need to have touch-free wash basins, touch-free water dispensers. We need to have touch-free hand sanitizers. So whatever the budget for that, that requires money. If safety is expensive, you try an accident and you want people to die because you can't modify a tap and one person. I will come on to some of the cases like that. Mock drills and ERT management, very interesting part out here. We say when you have a fire drill or a mock drill, we say 3-point contact. So 2 legs on the ground and 1 hand with a staircase handle. So when everybody is touching the staircase handle, the railings, Are people going to be affected? That's one question. What about the assembly area with a limited capacity of people? Are we going to have social distancing in the assembly area? So these are interesting questions. ERT management. When people get back to the workplace, you may work for 10%, 20%, 30% people. As safety professionals or facility leaders or security leaders, have you seen who are the ERT members also getting back to the work in that 20, 30%? Is there a system of that? So that also we need to check. Another interesting point is that when somebody, like many of us are trained in CPR, when you have a first aid, when somebody gets a heart attack and you do a CPR, thereafter you're supposed to do a mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. During COVID time, are you going to do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation or not? That's another interesting thought. So for that, let's say this is something called a L'Oreal, the face mask is there. So either you can put it around you and possibly manage to do that. So you possibly to acquire things like these. The silent carriers of coronavirus, this is the most dangerous thing which can happen. Like what is called, some of the people call it a silent suicide bomber who come to your workplace, absolutely asymptomatic, very happy, very cheerful, but as a silent carrier of the virus. So this is something which is a huge challenge for us. We don't know who's infected and who's not. So we are fighting with myths and facts. Lots of social media things come in, drinking cow urine, having something like that, doing shirshasana, lots of things. And when the president says, okay, you inject bleaching powder or the disinfectant in your blood, a lot of things. So we are fighting with the myth realities, no WhatsApp forwards. That's what we need to be looking at. And this is a huge, because the way it spreads, I think we have to fight this, what they call it as infodemic, pandemic plus infodemic. So there are many fronts which we are fighting against. Right. On to the next slide, please.
So, Prem, very rightly said, nowadays people are aware what they know, but they don't demonstrate. As you rightly said, they know that when we are driving four-wheeler, we have to wear the seat belt. But really, in reality, we don't do that. So I think that's an important aspect we should be learning in the life. I just want to ask a question, Prem. What are the challenges other than workplace you see for people to deal with COVID-19 and some mitigations you want to share?
Outside the workplace, the way people travel, the entire thing about being a social man is a social animal. Now we are typical kind of thing, like you have those serials which are coming in as the Big Boss. So it is something like a Big Boss here. You know, all of us have got their own Big Boss homes. And if you go to the UN disaster reduction website, you'll be shocked to know the number of domestic abuse which is happening both on children and also on the people. And there have been number of 500%. I was seeing even in some of the places where they have got shelters because of the domestic abuse. People are started discovering each other. They had their own space. Now they don't have the personal space. So at home there are challenges. Going out is a challenge. The children and domestic quarrel is one thing which the UN has also called out, and there are helplines for that. And plus the entire thing about once the thing opens, what to do? Do we go to the malls? In a swimming pool, are you going to have a social distancing? On a dance performance in a theater, are you going to have a social distancing? All those factors come in, and that is a challenge. The way we travel, and the government says only one passenger and one driver can travel. A family of 4 have to travel, husband, wife, 2 children. That means they'll have to take 4 cars. They'll have to take 4 cars, hire 4 cabs together and move. The system of carpooling gone. So lots of changes are going to happen. The way we behave, the way we move. It's a complete change of dimension. That's why we started with the first slide of adapting to change. Back to you, Praveen.
Thank you, Prem. Sharif, you want to add something into this? Otherwise, next is your turn for work-based readiness.
Yeah, I think Prem, thanks. I think for that insight. Very rightly said, Prem. I think the one point I would like to definitely, carry forward from Prem's presentation is that compliance burden. I will be touching upon. So let us start our now brass tacks. Now what we are supposed to manage, that is workplace readiness. So we are the enablers, the business enablers. We are the support functions. We have got enormous responsibility, and never ever in the history of the facility management, the exposure at the, you can say that the visibility, I should use that right word, visibility of facility management never ever been so high. And this is the right time. And of course, COVID may be crisis, but I'll just tell, I think my team that any crisis is an opportunity for us. So I take this, we all should take that as an opportunity, and there is a great visibility and an opportunity for us to, be there on the front. You'll not believe, I think you all will agree that business is looking towards us. We are the saviors, actually, to be very frank, we are the saviors, and we are the frontliners. We are the front foot warriors, and for our facilities to be compliant. So let's go to the next slide. I will start with that front. It's a very huge thing, but I'll cover the main important points. As Prem rightly said, and very aptly he has shown, very passionately has shown, in fact, I should use that word, the face and the mouth are the, you can say that the very, very critical parts now we cannot expose to the external world. I'm sorry to say that, but there is a fact. So you need to, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen, we have to cover that in a common place, and we have to protect that and cover that. So Arogya Setu app, as of yesterday evening or yesterday morning, 10 o'clock, it was, government was thinking to, make it. But as of yesterday evening, it is now made compulsory. Every organization, including private organization like us, we need to, ensure that this is downloaded and this is complied. I know that when I'm talking this, I'm talking with full responsibility, because there are a lot of privacy issues which we need to, handle, that our IT teams has to handle. But as of today, it is mandatory. So we need to work around the ways and means to, make that, enabled. Social distancing, we already spoke about that earlier. I'll tell you this: when the WHO still says 1 meter and 3 feet, but the best practice, even the Arogya Setu app says 6 feet. So let us ingrain in our mind 6 feet is the best way to handle, and that would be the norm, new norm for us. So naturally, the MHA guidelines says, I've just brought the highlights there. So not more than 5 people. You have to lock your conference rooms and the meeting rooms. Should not allow that. And business virtual meetings, what we are doing now, thermal scannings, as WhatsApp University was, agog with all the tunnels, the screening tunnels. So it has gone for a toss now. So WhatsApp is good for some extent, but I think the government authorities are the best places to refer, actually. So thermal screening is as of now the mode which we are, because with thermal screening you will not come to know the COVID guy. This is only symptomatic. Some of the symptoms you will be able to identify. So we will be able to identify the symptomatic people. So frequent sanitation, of course, very important. Common touch points, and stay at home. We are all about 65, pregnant women, people with comorbidities, and people with less than 10 years of. Earlier it was 5 years. Now it is yesterday's, or it is less than 10 years. You have to stay at home until unless there is emergencies. Transport with social distancing is a norm, is a new norm, and there is very clear-cut guidelines. Which for a bus it's 50%, but you take that tempo traveler. If it is a 24-seater, if it's 12, if it is a 12-seater, it is 6. Like that. I know we have to ensure there is a social distancing there also. And medical insurance is a mandatory. There is something called COVID insurance, which is our MSMEs have already done. So MSMEs, government is giving some concession there, but here we have some insurance to all our support staff. But the COVID insurance is the futuristic thing we need to dwell upon. But the MHA, as of MHA guideline, very clearly talk about insurance. So that for further details, we will definitely dwell on those in terms of how we are going to, take it forward with respect to each organization. And the lifts, of course, not the era of lift with the fun, go and go with the people, have chat, have glasses, have full of people in the lift. All are gone now. Those are all olden days. So not more than either 2 or 4, however big it is. That's the best way to organize ourselves. And of course, the social distancing and the markings, we'll talk about that. Intensive communication. When a new norm, when the facility, the people have left our organization, before they were asked to work from home, we all were having chai pe charchas, we all were having, all the breaks, with all the, and the lunches. I think all those things in a new norm, we have to mentally ingrain them. I know we need to be, talking to them. Violators face legal action. That is, there are very important. That is, one is the Disaster Management Act, Section 51 to 60, and Section 188 of IPC. You need to go in details, and it is very clearly written in, that our guidelines. Next slide, please. MHA guidelines are very clear on that. So the mask, which Prem already talked about, I'll not mention here, but only thing, remember that there is a clip for a homemade mask. Clip may not be available, but you can do some innovation there. That is important. The homemade mask is okay, but if there is clip, if there's no clip, probably it will be, then otherwise it has to be 3 layers. It has to have ensure a lot of things, but clip protects. And the bottom, of course, you need to do it properly. Yeah, so 6 feet, we talked about some of the photographs which we are talking about here. We all are doing that. Just few snaps here for you to just go through. Next slide. So this is a very so many documents, so many forward which came, but I think Ashokam, Ishare, EMA, and of course GAX, GSES has come up, and this is a wonderful document which has come. So I'm just suggesting this, one of the read, which if anybody will ask, I can also share one-on-one to you. Beautiful document. Everything it covers from the Ishare guidelines, which is the requirement at the point of time. Everybody, there was a joke which is going on. There are 2 things people are asking. One is mask, one is AC. How to have AC in the facility. So that much importance the Ishare guidelines. So electrical, plumbing, the commercial, and the firefighting, everything is there in these guidelines. Very important. Go through, and we can forward whoever is asked in person. Next. So I'll touch upon briefly the workplace readiness engineering. I talked about it on engineering piece in HVAC, as you all already may be aware. So the top line I will talk to you. So you have to have the temperatures, not that if the client visit RI to 22 degrees, I'll put it. So I think now we need to be sensitive enough to ensure that to avoid the viral load or avoid the contamination, the Ishare recommends, which is a competent body, to have between 24 to 30. And if it is for the humid, you should be temperature close to the 24, or if it is dry climate, it should be about 30 to ensure your right kind of a humidity and the RH factor. The air movement, when you are increasing the temperature, you need to increase the air. The velocity of the air should increase. That is important, so that you will not feel hot or humid. But in case if you are still, I know that there are hot places where you are increasing the temperature because of the COVID, but the people are feeling hot. What is the solution? You may ask me. There, what you need to do, that there's lots of fresh air. Once you are doing this, you are increasing lots of fresh air. When you are increasing the fresh air, your temperature, you may feel hot or suffocated, or you're not having the right temperature. So there is a small suggestion what Ishare has given. You use TFA unit, treated fresh air units. So treated fresh air unit will allow you to feel cooler while having the temperature between 30 or 28. Use TFA in there. Okay, that's the one suggestion. And fresh air. What is the fresh air? You may ask. You are asking us to increase fresh air. That is not a definition, right? So Ishare has clearly given 5 CFM per person. These are important metrics I am giving here. So, or 0.06 CFM per square feet. So just remember that that's the fresh air per person you need to and the maximum supply of outside air within limits. Whatever your capacity is within limit, that is the maximum. So on the soft services part, lots of things which has been talked about. There are so many chemicals. Governments are not named. You have most of the industrial proved chemicals, and also 1% sodium hypochlorite solution that is the cheapest, but we have Virox and all. So I think you need to have the right kind of a mix. Disinfection is important, and stereofume is important in case there is a suspected case which has come, or in case there is any there is a disinfection. All the critical rooms, all the places which is better to disinfect and then allow the associate. Soft services name, you can rename, or that is a new norm. They are going to be the new warriors as part of the facilities management. Hygiene in sanitation services, we can rename them and instill pride in them. They are no more janitorial services. They are hygiene sanitation services. That is the one which we need to keep their motivation levels. That they are the ones which we are they're making the difference to a place which people can work or people cannot work. That's the difference. Food and beverage, so many guidelines which have come, which I'll not touch upon. Naturally, your kitchen, social distancing, your food, how you are distributing it has to be, and no food which is to be allowed as of now, as all the the what we had a luxury. I think you should go for a dry, the packed food, and that's very important. And food tests and the grass banks readiness very important. So that's the norm which we need to ensure. Next slide. Employee transportation, we all talked about earlier. MHA guidelines are very clear. All your there is to be SOP which need to be put in place. Your every vehicle should be sanitized, should come to the facility, should have a sanitizer, and you should have the mask should be worn by the of course not only driver, for everybody, including the people. And the seating layout, we already discussed about that. Ensure that those seating layouts are adhered very strictly, otherwise you will be caught. There will be people who will be there, and then of course the disinfection at the end of the day, when it goes back, when it comes back, it should be fully. Please avoid the breath analyzer checks for time being, though it's a one of the requirement for us to ensure through your RTO act. But as of now, I think it is agreed. But keep that fear that I will be doing a random check, okay? But don't do as of now. And MHC and quarantine medical health center or occupational health center. Some of us are using this term. Some of us are using medical health centers. So very, very important, when you all allow the associates to, what do you think that all are, you are going to check the temperature, but ensure that if you are to quarantine them, you need to identify a quarantine area. The quarantine area guidance are very clearly mentioned in the Center for Disease Control and Prevention website. So adhere to that. Broadly, your ventilation which is coming to the quarantine area should be exclusive. It should not be connecting or coming from any other facility. So there is a re-engineering which we need to do. Or if you're building a new building, you will build the dedicated quarantine area. The MHC, of course, medical health center, highest level of sanitation, highest, all your walls, everything would have already sanitized. All your equipments you should sanitize. Your checklist, your ambulance checklist, your MHC should also must be having till now medical, the ambulances you will be having a ambulance checklist, but the ambulance hygiene checklist will include where your sanitation every use or every day, which is important. That is the one norm, sanitation, as well as the emergency medicine, including a sufficient number of masks to the driver and the people who are traveling. Supply chain, of course, the medical person who is actually handling a COVID kind of a patient in a medical facility, they will wear the N95. Otherwise, not required in the facility. Supply chain, of course, any material which is coming, that a lot of laptops, a lot of material which is coming in, which need to be disinfected. You need to have a supply chain disinfection, SOP, which is we have certain guidelines of MHA also. So all those guidelines, the people who are doing the disinfection should wear the disinfection mask and the entire suit, and then should do the disinfection. Then only the material should be allowed. There is a layoff period of 2 hours to 4 hours. Then only the material should be touched, which is coming from outside. Next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah. So that's the brass tracks. So because we can't go in further detail, I think further details in person we can definitely give you that guidance. So what are the change after that? So I just know we were talking about. So Prem will add here. Prem, you want to take this up?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm taking a point out of the whatever Sharif said, and you can all see this. It might be looking the other way around, maybe. EHS. You can see previously, whenever we used to be at the workplace, S used to be bigger, E used to be for, E and S used to be mostly for audits, surviving audits. We all used to survive audits, celebrate audits. Yeah. Our concept of safety and health and safety was celebrating audits and surviving audits, with a business leader coming for a ceremonial opening like a Republic Day parade, thereafter coming for the closing meeting in a telephone call. That's what we had. Things have to change. Things have to go more at the H part. H is huge capital, much bigger than S and E. And that's what, when H comes, the S also and E also will naturally follow. So what would change at the workplace? No shaking of hands. Human minds, our reflex action says when you meet somebody, hi. And some of them, of course, would be namaste. But from this, of course, people do that kind of, elbow bump and all that, and no high fives, no shaking hands, no jadoo ki jappi, nothing. It is all from a 6 feet. You are going to be going to a 6 feet workshop, a 6 feet office. So remember that word 6. Otherwise, your health will go for a 6. So that is what it is. It's a 6 feet office hereafter. No chai pe charcha. Nothing. Chalo yaar chai ke liye jate hain. Chalo, let's have tea together. No like a tea with a boss. That cannot happen. Another interesting thing is that no group lunch. You used to have those kind of group lunch. Let's have a lunch together. You used to have lunch partners at all. No more partnering now. No birthday celebrations. No birthday celebration. No cake cutting and not sharing of cakes and all that, which you can give it to the workplace. That doesn't happen. One-on-one interviews. It cannot have one-on-one interview means you have to be at 6 feet away. 6 feet away. That means everybody does a 6 feet interview. Then the workplace will become much more noisier. So that is an interesting point. Many of the leaders would have smaller cabins, which may be hardly good enough to fit people. So what about the one-on-one interviews? What about those candidates interviews which you're going to conduct? Are you going to do it under a tree or somewhere else? We'll have to check. So one-on-ones, interviews. Another interesting thing is no smoking partner and no sharing of cigarettes. Smoking buddies. So as per the government orders, gutka, pan, everything is prohibited, but smoking has not been prohibited. But sharing of cigarettes, that cannot happen anymore. That's something which is very interesting. So people have been sharing so far to start investing in buying a cigarette. And queue everywhere. Everywhere you will find a queue. Queue for the lift, queue for the tea points, queue for the water, queue for reception, and also queue for the toilets. Sharif showed you some of the toilets have been blocked up. It has been the alternate washrooms. And so you'll find queues everywhere. And that too, queue with a 6 feet distance. That means your entire corridor, people may be queuing up for the toilets, maybe with a token system or whatever it is, but that's the reality of life. Things are going to change. No carpooling and cabs with a single passenger. That is a very big change again. Which means when the workplace starts, when you start getting even 50% of a workplace, you have limited parking spaces. Like on some of the buildings, there is a ratio, so many square feet area, so much of parking. But once people start using their own transport with no sharing, the requirement for parking space is going to increase. So coronavirus would do a great service by getting people, improving the punctuality in the offices, because people have to look around for the parking slots. So this is another thing which we need to plan ahead. When people are going to use their own transport, the parking space will be increased. And also some of the workplaces have the valet parking, where it is parked by the respective company people. You'll have to completely stop valet parking, because what happens is if one person is infected, the other valet parking guy can get infected from his steering, his gear, and his door handle. If that happens, and that very person parks another car, infecting the next steering, next gear, next accelerator. So that's what is it. So it can spread innocently due to valet parking. You'll have to stop your valet parking straight away in the companies. So these are the changes which we need to follow, and many, many more. Coming out of the people aspects. Yeah, Praveen.
Yeah, Bram. Thanks, Prem, for sharing your thoughts. I just want to ask one question to Sharif. He rightly elaborated on the transport and breath manager from office perspective. Sharif, just want to understand what will be your suggestions to ensure people taking proper ergonomics maintained while working from home?
I think, Praveen, it's a very, very apt question. We all had the comfort of having a ergonomically designed chair at office. So
Yes.
thankfully, office has become, a home has become an office, and including office desktop also come to home. But unfortunately, office chair has not come to home. So, so very good question. So there are some. I think I really thank one of my colleague, senior colleague, and she's she's also a advisor for Godrej, Dr. Reena Valecha. She has shared a wonderful, the insights when you work from home, how you have to, use whatever the best, whatever you have the chairs. So I will share the Reena Valecha's, the mail, what she has shared to me through a WhatsApp or through a mail to these members. And I'm just highlighting those. because she's an expert, which I learned also from, from her. So basically, she talks that, when you are having, say, a chair or a sofa, like where I am sitting now, but there is no, like, I have a support, but I don't have a proper lumbar support. So you need to ensure there is a pillow, or there is a, and when you are having sitting right angles, you don't have your leg support. So you can use your small sofas, a small, we can say that footrest kind of a thing, where you take a rest on that. Number one. Number two, when you are sitting on a chair which is not ergonomically, conducive, you take you take breaks. Very important. Otherwise, you can't rectify the chair. Neither you can go and purchase, as such chairs are also not available. So ensure that, of course, you should be in the right angles when you are sitting to your desktop or the laptop. But your chair is not ergonomic. What you can do, or your chair is, you're not able to sit for a longer time, take a right kind of a breaks. So these 2-3 steps probably, which help you to adjust to your work, or you, if you have a, you're fortunate enough to have a chair, and of course, which how to use that one. So you adjust your height in such a way that you are at a right angles to your desktop or the laptop. That's the thing.
Good. Thank you, Sharif. Prem, you want to add something on this?
Yes, and also follow that 20-20-20 rule, as it said. No? You work for 20 minutes, work from home, the entire working increases. You're not looking at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Your calendar changes to today, tomorrow, day after. Today, tomorrow, day after. There's nothing like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You don't realize there's a Saturday or a Wednesday. Because most of us as professionals, we try to recover from a holiday on one day. We'll think of working on Tuesday. We get into weekly calls and all that. And Wednesday, we start working. Thursday and Friday, we start preparing for the weekend. So the peak goes like this and goes down. So now it is every day, today, tomorrow, day after. So we'll have to have the 20-20-20 rule, which means we work for 20 seconds, 20 minutes, look at an object 20 feet away for 20 seconds, so that at least your eyes are exercised, and your home offers enough opportunity to do that. The 20-20-20 rule, and not the other way around. You work for 20 seconds and look ahead for 20 minutes. Obviously, your manager will catch you. And that's something. And if you were to very innovative, some of the companies track employees, and that's not part of this thing. Companies track the employees. I find that, yes, some of the webcams are automatically switched on when the employee starts working. That, of course, that's a company policy. But in case you want to move the mouse, you tell your child to move the mouse, keep moving, so that the mouse is kept moving and the person knows the system is active and does not screen locked. That's another thing which I can add on. And the people aspects, the human aspects which are there, and the communication. Okay. Constant, caring, creative communication. Constant. Some of the companies where I'm working with, they believe only on one source of communication, which goes from HR or safety. You have to work up with the managers to ensure that the managers act as the multipliers of safety. Let's say the CEO sends a mail, hey friends, we are passing through tough times, or the EHS head sends it. The rest of the organization, when I propagate take up assignments on improving safety culture, I say this to the managers and leaders: you need to act as the multipliers of communication. That means you have to, the managers, when people listen to from the managers directly, could be a corporate communication with a few forwarding lines, maybe a voice call, and that really matters. And caring, creative communication. You see, we do some of the leaders, the CEOs, the way they communicated. Mandatory induction before getting back to the office. So this is very important. Ideally, there are some companies are working the e-modules for induction back to the office. Do this, do that, do this, do that. When you're cab, do that. When you're at the entrance, do that. So, and at the cafeteria, you'll do that. To the washroom, you do that. So that is some of the, either you give a PPT, which is a dull way of doing it, or have a voice call with people, set up a webinar kind of thing like this, and brief them directly, so that really matters, rather than just a electronic voice over mail telling them what to do. And that really matters, yes. And tell them that communication very strong, saying that, yes, we care for you. A floor pandemic coordinator. Each floor should have a pandemic coordinator, basically to see that, yes, look for people. People should report to him as well. Virtually connect with associates prior to joining. I said it's very important. Don't depend on PPTs for training and changing behaviors. All the do's and don'ts at the workplace, awareness mailers. So people think that, yes, just by sending a mail, people are expected to read that. It does not happen. If you see, if some of the EHS professionals, if you go through, if you do a tracking mechanism for the mails read by people, I think you'll be disappointed. And going to the floors and talking to people and communicate about the need for staying at home. This is not a Kargil war कि देश के लिए हम मरेंगे and all that. देश के लिए हम देश के लोगों को मारे डालेंगे if you come to the workplace with COVID. And that is what it is. So people, there's nothing like patriotism here. People should be understanding, caring, and also give that functional freedom and the freedom to express that, yes, people can remain at the work, at home, if not well. And a point of self-declaration. Yeah, if you can go one slide back, please. I don't know. Yeah, it is time. And one of the things which we are going to battle is that the employees, there will be apprehensions of employees getting back to the office because there will be pressure from the families saying that don't get back to it's all infected. We are in a red zone, green zone, whatever it is. So that is a psychological aspect. I am fit, but I will not come to the workplace. I would like to work from home. How to deal with that is a question. You can't deal with a nine hand. This is a human. It's a human being after all. You'll have to think through this. And business leaders, and I say this for those of us who handle safety, unless the business leaders get actually involved in health and safety, things cannot work. And this is no longer ceremonial. They have to get involved, give the budgets, if they rather than approving, say, and they have to say, you know, there's something like justice should not only be done, but appear to have been done. When they approve a budget for modification of, let's say, wash basin for contactless taps or something, they should say, yes, this is a topmost importance. I completely agree. Safety first. And that message carries down to the chain. Leaders have to actually get involved, go for audits. And as I said, leaders cannot be excused wearing the face mask. They have to walk the talk. And that's exactly what has to be done. And I find that, yes, one of the video which is going around is that one of the health directors is in a foreign country. She was giving a lecture on the importance of not touching the nose, mouth, and eyes. And during the talk, she mentioned, okay, thereafter, the next point, she did this. She was giving a talk as a health director to the public, and she was touching her nose. So walking the talk is so important. And that is come across the world, that's a habit. So we have to change our habits. And that too, the leaders have to be role models. Yeah, let's move on. Thank you. Back to you.
Good. Prem, do you see any challenge from the leader side to get involved?
Yes, the challenge from the leader side is, it is that some of them would say that, yes, that it is all over. So in Hindi we say, no, chale gaye thanedar rab dar kahe ka. So same story, chale gaye virus, abhi dar kahe ka. So that is exactly what is going to happen. That temporary sense of importance, and thereafter they don't get into it. Number two, I have a big grudge against business leaders who take facility team, facility managers, EHS as a take it for granted function. You cannot. Now this has to be, it is taken. The facility managers, so Praveen, you heard me earlier when I said that facility managers are remembered not when the AC is on. When the AC is switched off, that's the time facility managers are remembered. Safety managers are remembered when there is an accident. Similarly, suddenly BCP managers are remembered when there's a pandemic. Oh, we had a BCP plan. Where is it? Looking around. It is lying in page number 783 of your huge corporate volume document. Next, the leaders, one of the challenges of the leaders is they think that what is manufactured in US or wherever the country of origin or wherever the company's headquarters, we are a global company, we got global practices, and that is something which they say, okay, since it is global, they are immune to change for any local suggestions or ideas. And many of the leaders feel that it is a document, they don't look at the compliance part of it. We need to have Gemba walks by the leaders to check and support the facility team. They require support. They don't require blessings for your audits. They require actual hand-holding, facility, EHS, safety and security managers. Call them together. I had the luxury of being called in one of the companies as a Thanksgiving function for the support staff. So this is the way you demonstrate. It doesn't cost anything. Maybe 1,000 rupees cake, but it says a lot.
All right.
So
I think we are at 4:54. I think we need to do quick so that we can take some questions also.
Yeah, absolutely. So this
we have a governance. Yeah.
This we also mentioned, being left out of the stigma the stigma is very high, being in a quarantine, or maybe people don't even talk to him. Oh, he's been just recovered from the quarantine. So psychological aspects, we need to look at it. And some of them get into OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. You want to don't touch anything, handle this, that, you go with your hands up. So because you're scared, that gets into OCD. That becomes a bit of a challenge. Yeah, we can move on before we,
so I'll just take it. So can we go to the next slide? See, the way forward is very, very important. The strong governance. See, when I talked about EHS governance, I'll give you some small, I think, how do you remember everything? In fact, I was very fortunate. I was given an opportunity 3 weeks back, also by Tech Expert Forum, to present on the same strategy. So that time I used this simple, formula to, tell them 2 C's and 1 G. That is the strategy, entire strategy. I wanted to put it in that. So what is the 2 C's? One is the communication we all talked about. Second C is the campus readiness, which we have already talked about, and we know how to deal with it. And the G, after 2 C's, 1 G, which is very, very important and incomplete. If you do C and 2 C's best, but you do not have governance, I don't think you will be able to, report, or you can, so that governance piece, which I'm talking about here. So the governance includes your COVID cases, your check sheet adherence to your security, your transportation adherence, all adherence. There may be the everything you may be putting in, like starting from the screening, starting from the social distancing of the cafeteria, starting in the elevator, how they are doing it. We have to ensure the mechanism, the governance mechanism to check, to keep the check, whether it is in person, whether it is random, whether it is through, I will use the word which Prem used in the beginning. That is, Prem was telling that, we will get compliance burden. So naturally you have a limited resource. So when I'm telling compliance burden will increase, overnight you are not going to get the, all EHS officers are double. You will not be getting it. I am giving a suggestion here, which I gave the other 3 weeks back also. Use your ERT members as your ambassadors, safety ambassadors, so that they can be the eyes and ears for you to be, to keep the facility compliant. This, of course, require a cultural shift, and of course, the business team has to support you, which they will do it eventually. So all your ERT team members will, give support to you, or need to give support to you to increase the compliance load. That is what we are not. That's one of the going forward, which I want to tell you here. Next slide. So the implementation on ground, so we already talked about it. The governance metrics for coronavirus compliance, which is government is going to ask, which we have shown some photographs, right? So some markings we have done in elevators in front of, and then cafeterias. All those things are recorded. Take photographs, document it, because tomorrow there can be inspections, surprise checks, and if you are non-compliant, you will be questioned, and you will be also asked to pay a penalty, and sometimes facility closure also, because one non-compliance would have led to some case in future. So more teamwork between BCP, facility, and security and EHS. Of course, not just Prem rightly said. All these people earlier, they used to work, but only during emergencies. Now it is the coordination, the collaboration, the day is the order of the day. The constant upskilling, the cross-functional skills are very, very important. As I told, the soft skills, soft services team, for example, they need to be upgraded. They need to be, given a lot of trainings to make them, hygiene, sanitary experts, and making the leaders walk the talk. As Prem has very aptly brought it out, the leaders has to walk the talk. They cannot just come, ceremonially enter in the opening and the closing meetings. They need to walk the talk, and they need to allocate the special budget for the EHS. Creative communication for influencing behavioral changes. I'll tell you, if you send a mailer, as Prem said, put a request, hardly you will be disappointed. So the communication channels include not only the mailers, but also use your PA system very effectively, which typically we used to use only during emergency. When there is an evacuation, when there is a horn, or then at that time, okay, there is a false alarm or there is an evacuation, guys, you evacuate. Use your PA system as one of the important communication media, apart from using your floor talks, floor connects, and your other medium of communication. Mock drill changes. The mock drills, of course, when you are doing, you can no longer do the mock drill. Please remember this. Mock drills, as Prem said, some other things like cafeteria, we cannot sit, we can't have a chai par charcha, we cannot have. Evacuations are required. It's a compliance requirement. but you need to do it very, very structurally, keeping the social distancing norm in place. Tracking of ERT and fire wardens, of course, they are going to be part of your governance team in the future, and be ever alert and ever ready. That's the mantra, and you will be definitely given bigger seat in going forward as part of the facility management team. Next, I think we are done with the slides. What are the last slide? I think, yeah, yes, sir. You like to add anything?
Yeah. If safety, many of us, we said that, as I said, the first victim of a budget cut. Now, this is not the time to look at budget cuts now. If safety is expensive, try an accident. If healthcare is expensive, try catching COVID-19. Either yourself or one of your family members.
Right.
That's a time you should be caring for the employees. So this is what it is. It's up to you to do a medical insurance for, let's say, 5,000 rupees, or be prepared to shell out a bill of 5 lakhs for a heart surgery. It is simple wisdom here. And before I close this, and that is why we need to say this, some of the places where I especially wanted to say this, because the way the virus spreads is something very, very unique. And what we also find, I want to give you a case in Madhya Pradesh, where a barber shop, 6 people got infected because the barber used the same cloth for all the 6 people, all are COVID. A truck driver in Vijayawada in Andhra Pradesh, he got bored, he started playing cards and all that, 24 people infected. A priest in Punjab, 70-year-old man who returned from abroad, a preacher, he broke his home quarantine, went around from village to village, got 23 people infected, and thereafter it increased. 70 villages have been sealed because of this man. So what I'm trying to say is that one loose end is enough. It is not only employees. The bigger challenge continues for even the vendor staff. That is another part. Could be a visitor. Like I mentioned to you initially, a pen, which is at the visitors register, is enough to infect everybody. I get back to you. Thank you, Praveen.
Good. Thank you, Prem. Thank you, Sharif, for sharing your thoughts and presentation. I think we can check on some questions from Jatin. Can you help me on this? I think I'm just going through the chat.
Are you able to open the chat?
Yeah.
I've opened the chat. I think I'm not finding any question. People are sharing their thoughts, but I think the PPT will be shared to everyone. I think there was one question. Somebody was asking, can we get the PPT? So that will be shared. So no question in the chat as of now. Mr. Upadhyay, thank you very much for your last comment. So that's very good. So this session was around EHS, and we all talked about environment, health and safety, but nobody talked about happiness. So I don't think without happiness the EHS can work. So I just want to share, I think you all must have read somewhere about these facts, some facts of life, undeniable facts. Like, don't educate your children to be rich, educate them to be happy. So when they grow up, they will know the value of things, not the price. The second is best awarded word in London: eat your food as your medicines. Otherwise, you have to eat medicines as your food. The third is the one who loves you will never lose you for another, because even if there are 100 reasons to give up, he or she will find one reason to hold. There is a big difference between a human being and a being human. Only a few really understand it. So always be kind and be empathetic to others. You are loved when you're born. You will be loved when you die. In between, you'll have to manage. So that's your mastery, how you manage. So if you just want to walk fast, walk alone. But if you want to walk for walk together. So these are the things I think we should understand and imbibe in life. 6 best doctors in the world. First is sunlight, second is rest, third is exercise, fourth is diet, fifth is self-confidence, and sixth is friends. I need to emphasize on friends.
There is one question which has come. Can I take that?
Yes, yes.
Just a minute. Yeah. What shall be the EHS roadmap for corporates in coming months, considering utilization of additional resources in offices to mitigate COVID situation? Yeah, I think a very, very apt question. I think, gentlemen. See, the roadmap is. Let me be very frank. It is dynamic. Okay. So even though, and first and foremost thing, your city, your state, if state is of course, if you are wherever your facilities are there, if they are in green zone, there is a chances of you to come out, even though there is the lockdown might be lifted in future. If there is a red zones, if your facility or your city is in the full city, like Hyderabad is in full in red zone. So I mean, we have challenges in opening the facility. That is so you need to see your containment, the red zone and the orange zone, the first ones which will be opened without any issues with the green zone, and then with some restrictions, orange zone. So your pickup, you need to map. That is what government is very, very cleverly has come up with the Arogya Setu app. Ensure that your Arogya Setu app, when you are taking them, I mean, you map with, you're all associated with the Arogya Setu app. You can track their area, whether they're in red zone or green zone. So that way you can map your associate to come to the work. And also the guidelines, earlier it was 50%, now the guideline is 33% only. So you need to see that your associates are trickling in terms of, I suggest 5% to begin with. Then once the green signal is given, all green is there in your city, start with 5%, then increase to 10, then subsequently you can. But before that, there is always a center point that is called the D-Day. Before D-Day, D-7 or D-14, your all facilities, whatever we spoke, that should be done and that should be ready. Thank you.
Good. Any more question?
Yeah, Praveen, one point I would like to say, Praveen.
Yeah.
Yeah, to all of you on this call, and I would like to thank you. And also, please remember, like in driving, we have the learner's license around us. So, which you put on the car, please take out a learner's license and put it around all our necks, including all of us. Nobody is perfect. We should have the intellectual humility to accept whatever, because this virus is evolving, the dynamics are evolving. I think we are on a constant learning process and there is no goalpost. It's a shifting goalpost every time.
Sir,
So
there is one more question which came. Yeah, Prem, you finish.
Yeah. So that is what I wanted to say, that yes, it's a learning, and let's share the learnings with each other.
Can we take, sir, or we?
Yeah, please.
I just want to add what you mentioned. The learning license, in case if you involve in any accident, on the learning license, you will not get the insurance.
True.
This is the many people are not.
Praveenji, I believe we have 2 more questions here. I'll quickly read out. One says, is there any chance to improve health emergency mock drills as per OHSAS standards?
No, from COVID-19 situation, there should not be any mock evacuation drill, because considering social distance, it will be completely ruled out.
Yeah. So, okay. And the next one is, do we have any guidelines for dispose of masks?
I'll take that.
Do we have any guidelines for dispose of masks? Yes.
Yeah, very, very good question. I was thinking why this question was not asked till now, because see, the very, very important, first of all, to be very frank, the load, naturally the order of the day, the new norm is that everyone will be wearing mask, and you will be providing the dust bins. But what is the law says? The law says that first it was not very clear. Then it came the Central Pollution Control Board came up with only the hospital facilities and the medical facilities where they are treating COVID patients, whether including quarantine patients at home. There is a disposal guidelines which came. Then Chennai, the Tamil Nadu was the first one which also told even at home or other people who are using the mask, they should cut it, put it in a cover, then dispose it through the standard disposable, authorized disposable agencies and all. So that the fourth one, still it was not very clear on whether the associates and the general staff which we are using at office, how do we dispose? As a best practice, we can dispose. But there is a recent, I think, guidelines in the Center for Disease Control and Prevention that again, you mostly try to use reusable masks. That guideline says. If not, when the masks are being used, you need to dispose it, like as I told earlier, cover it properly, put it in an yellow bin liner. Okay, bin liners need to procure. Please remember that yellow bin liner, and then dispose it through your authorized, licensed, biomedical waste, producers or the disposers, and use their services. But your biomedical authorization would have not been up to that much of load, correct? No problem. As of now, the government has given the consideration without having going to the amendment of your biomedical disposal, the consent. You can add this load to them, provided you adequately compensate him because the additional load what he's taking. Law can change after, because the act has not, only guidelines have come. So these are all the comprehensive things which we are learning. So this is dynamic. So as of now, these are all the things which have come. And as of even the Karnataka government, it has been asked to dispose in a sanitary waste, like the sanitary disposal pads which we dispose now. So this is one of the guideline in the Karnataka. So these are all the multiple things which have come. But on a positive, on the front foot, on a best practice, on a beyond compliance note, we request you to dispose through a authorized biomedical waste, producer. That's the guideline.
I think we have a few more questions coming in now. So if it is okay with the speakers, we can take it.
Yeah, we can.
Great. So the another one says, do you recommend which chemical to be used for disinfection, as we are getting so many chemicals in market?
Prem, you want to take?
Yeah, no, Sharif, you can take on.
Hey, Prem, you can take. You are the one who is.
There are various. There's talk about hydrogen peroxide, sodium hypochlorite. So sodium hypochlorite should not be sprayed on people, and also for the metallic things, because it has got a corrosive effect. And there are various companies are using various ones. We can send you all the details across to you. Which is to be used in which place, because some of them have to be kept at place for 10 to 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. Each has got a lead time before it is cleaned again. So this, we will send you the details across and combine and send it across to the people who have attended.
Yeah.
And also to the team.
Great. There is one more which says, in COVID times, wastage of food treat in which category?
There is no category. Normal thing is, because wherever you have the that machine,
OWC, organic waste converter.
You consume that, you can use that food for to prepare the manure, and otherwise you deal it normally how you are dealing with the normal food. But yes, you have to ensure that you use the authorized. That's it, from a safety perspective.
We'll be taking last two questions. The first one is, what should be the mask life?
Mask life, this is all disposable because we are getting our 50.
Let me answer that. Good question. For a surgical mask, the average time to use it 6 hours. Okay, so that is the after beyond that. So in a shift, in an 8-hour shift, you must issue two surgical masks to your janitorial staff. That is the guidance. Yeah. Next.
Which liquid or chemical is useful to disinfect AHU filters?
It is there this is very clearly given in the ISHRE guidelines. I did note down because somebody might ask. Okay, it is. Let me just check 1 second. Yeah, there is a guidance. It is clearly available. I will send it across. It is there in ISHRE. Okay, good question.
Great.
I think not able to read. Yeah.
I just have last question, which is from my side. So basically related to house. So I mean, just wanted to know that at what temperature should we keep our AC in a room? I mean, in my house.
I think we spoke about that, right? A good question. Right now, when I am sitting here, I am putting my AC. So all those things are gone. ISHRE guideline when you, even at the 30 also, by increasing the air velocity, you will feel very much comfortable. So put on 30. That's what the ISHRAE guidelines go beyond 24. Then you use your fan.
I think as per ISHRAE it is from 24 to 30.
30. So go on the higher side.
Webinar, our ISHRAE president, they mentioned that if you keep at 27 with fan, it will be very good.
Okay. And while in a car, is it safe to switch on the AC while driving?
Yeah, you can. There is no threat in on using AC. If it is a window AC, it is good. It is a car AC, it is good. There was a threat on centralized AC, but that is also clarified by ISHRAE president. Then you can use it. There should not be any problem. You use the normal disinfect to disinfect the HU filters. You can use the central AC also.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'll able to read my writing only. So it is recommended to use, it is only to UVGA, that is ultraviolet germicidal irradiation. For continuously, you can keep your AHUs disinfected. For there are so many ionization, ways of, doing that. And normal soap solution, you can use it. And the filtration capacity, that nobody is asking, that very important. Filter should be of MERV, MERV 13. MERV 13 filter should be used. That's important. And if you want to use higher filters, please, you should think about your capacity of your fan and your motor also. Yeah.
Great. I think that's all we have from the participant side.
That's it.
Praveenji, over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for spending the time to attend this webinar. Thanks to Prem, thanks to Sharif to be our guest speaker. I think you all were awesome as an audience, as a guest speaker. I'm sure you would have got the answers for all your questions. So we just call it off the webinar. Thank you so much, and be safe, stay home, and take good care of yourself. Thank you so much.